On the surface, narcissists look powerful, confident, untouchable. They walk into a room and the air shifts. Their voice carries authority, their charm is magnetic, their certainty borders on divine. People look at them and think, here is someone who has it all together. But Jung would say otherwise. He warned that the brighter the persona, the social mask we present to the world, the darker the shadow behind it. And few masks shine brighter than the narcissists. Their grandiose confidence is not proof of strength. It is a shield built to hide a wound so deep it could not be faced. The narcissist's public face is all performance. Charm, seduction, control, success. They know how to be admired. They know how to dazzle. But this persona is inflated, bloated, exaggerated because it is compensating. Beneath the mask lies not strength, but fragility. Not wholeness, but fracture. The louder they declare their superiority, the quieter their soul whispers, I am nothing without this act. This is the paradox of the narcissist. They seem armored in ego, but inside, they are thinner than glass. The persona of confidence hides the buried child who once learned that their real self was unworthy of love. This child was often shamed, neglected, or told they were only valuable if they performed. And so, to survive, they built the mask. They learned to be what others adored, not what they truly were. Because the mask is not real, it can never be satisfied. The admiration feels good for a moment, but it fades quickly, leaving the narcissist starving again. And so they demand more attention, more validation, more proof that the mask still works. What looks like arrogance is actually hunger. What looks like strength is actually emptiness. And yet, the narcissist cannot admit this emptiness. To do so would shatter the mask. Instead, they project it onto others. They call people weak, needy, pathetic, never realizing that these are the very traits they cannot face in themselves. Jung would say the narcissist lives possessed by the shadow. They are not ruling themselves. They are ruled by what they deny. The narcissist's mask is dazzling, but it is not strength. It is survival. It is the inflated persona hiding a wounded child beneath. Until the wound is faced, the mask must stay, and the hunger will never end. On the surface, narcissism looks like ego run wild, as if the person was born inflated, born entitled, born craving attention. But Jung would say otherwise. Narcissism is not born, it is built. And what builds it is not excess love, but the absence of it. Imagine a child whose worth depends on performance. When they achieve, they are praised. When they fail, they are ignored or shamed. Love is no longer unconditional. It is currency, earned only when they wear the right mask. The child learns quickly. Who I am is not enough. Only what I perform will keep me safe. This is the beginning of the wound. The real self, tender and vulnerable, is buried. In its place, a false self, a persona, is crafted to secure the love that should have been freely given. Other children grow up under the constant shadow of criticism. Nothing is ever good enough. Every attempt is mocked, corrected, diminished. The child's conclusion? I am defective. If I show my true self, I will only be humiliated. So they begin to hide. And what hides does not vanish. It retreats into the shadow, waiting, festering. Meanwhile, the child builds armor, the charm, the control, the arrogance, to keep the wound from ever being seen. And then there are the children who simply go unseen. Parents too distracted, too absent, too lost in their own wounds to notice. These children are not even criticized. They are invisible. Neglect is its own betrayal. The child learns, I do not matter. I will never be chosen. To survive invisibility, they become larger than life. They inflate the self until no one can look away. But behind the spotlight is the same wound, the terror of being forgotten. No matter the form, conditional love, shaming, neglect, the result is the same, a wound too heavy for a child to carry. And so, the child splits. The vulnerable self is locked away in the shadow, frozen in time. The false self, the narcissist's mask, is put on the throne. From the outside, this mask looks invincible. But from the inside, it is brittle. The narcissist spends their life guarding it, terrified that if it cracks, the world will see the child they still are, unloved, unseen, ashamed. The narcissist's wound is born in childhood. It is not arrogance at the core, but abandonment. not strength, but neglect. The mask you see in adulthood is not proof of power. It is proof of pain, a child's survival strategy carried into adult life. On the surface, empaths look like the opposite of narcissists, gentle where the narcissist is harsh, giving where they take, humble where they boast. But Jung would say otherwise. The empath and the narcissist are two sides of the same wound. Both were shaped by love that hurt. They just learned opposite ways to survive it. Imagine a child in a house full of chaos, arguing parents, unpredictable moods, the constant hum of tension. The child learns early. Safety means sensitivity. To stay safe, they must sense every shift in the room before it erupts. So they tune in. They become hyper-aware. They feel everything. And slowly, they forget how to feel themselves. This is the birth of the empath. It is not a gift at first. It is a defense. Other empaths are born into emotional neglect. No one comes when they cry. No one asks what they feel. Eventually, they flip the script. If no one will take care of me, they decide, I'll take care of them. The child begins to parent the parent. They soothe the angry father, comfort the weeping mother, play the role that keeps the family intact. But in doing so, they abandon themselves. Their needs become dangerous. Their boundaries dissolve. By adulthood, they can feel everyone except themselves. Just like the narcissist, the empath grows up wearing a mask. But where the narcissist inflates, the empath erases. The narcissist's mask says, "See me, I am everything." The empath's mask says, "Don't worry, I'm nothing." Both are illusions. Both hide the same terror. If I show my real self, I won't be loved. Beneath the empath's gentleness hides a shadow too. The anger never expressed, the needs never voiced, the boundaries never built. They tell themselves they are selfless, but deep down, resentment brews. And when they meet a narcissist, that shadow wakes. The narcissist lives out the parts of the empath that have been buried, the confidence, the assertiveness, the hunger to be seen. What looks like attraction is recognition. The wound has met its reflection. The narcissist's survival strategy is to become everything. The empath's is to become nothing. But both stem from the same pain, the same childhood lesson that love must be earned, that the true self is unsafe. That's why, deep down, they recognize each other. They orbit like opposites, but they are born from the same star. The empath's wound is the mirror of the narcissist's. Both learned to survive love that could not hold them. One by taking up all the space, the other by disappearing into it. Their bond is not balance, it is repetition. On the surface, the connection between a narcissist and an empath looks like fate. One radiates power, the other radiates compassion. One commands, the other listens. Together, they fit perfectly, like two halves of a lock clicking into place. But Jung would say otherwise. Their meeting isn't destiny, it's design. An unconscious deal struck between two wounded souls. When the narcissist meets the empath, the attraction is instant and intense. The narcissist feels seen, understood, almost worshipped. The empath feels needed, purposeful, alive. Both feel like they've finally found home. But what they don't see is that the home they've found is not love, it's the wound. The narcissist has found someone willing to feed their endless hunger. The empath has found someone who confirms their childhood role. The caretaker, the healer, the one who must earn affection. Every bond between a narcissist and an empath begins with an invisible contract. The narcissist says, "I will be adored." The empath says, "I will adore." Each fulfills the other's unconscious need. The narcissist's false self is validated. The empath's self-worth is defined by giving. But beneath this harmony lies a darker truth. Both are using each other to avoid facing their own emptiness. The narcissist avoids their wound by consuming love. The empath avoids theirs by overgiving it. At first, the relationship feels transcendent. The narcissist floods the empath with attention, the infamous love-bombing phase. For the empath, it feels like being chosen at last, finally seen after years of invisibility. But it isn't real seeing, it's reflection. The narcissist sees only what feeds their image, and the empath sees only what matches their fantasy of saving someone broken. It is not love, it is mutual projection. Soon, the dynamic shifts. The narcissist's mask begins to crack under the pressure of reality. The empathy that once felt intoxicating now feels suffocating. The narcissist withdraws, criticizes, demands more admiration. And the empath, terrified of rejection, gives more attention, more patience, more self-sacrifice. Each time, they lose another piece of themselves. The narcissist grows hungrier, the empath grows emptier, and the dance continues until one breaks. Jung would call this a collision of shadows. Each partner embodies what the other denies. The narcissist's buried vulnerability hides inside the empath. The empath's buried power lives inside the narcissist. They are drawn to each other not because they complete one another, but because they carry each other's exiled halves. It is not chemistry. It is the unconscious trying and failing to heal itself through another person. The narcissist and empath are bound by their wounds. One seeks worship to escape emptiness, the other gives endlessly to escape invisibility. Their bond feels like fate because the psyche recognizes its mirror. But what feels like healing is repetition, and it will repeat until both face the wound within. On the surface, the narcissist and the empath look like opposites, the taker and the giver, the loud and the quiet, the sun and the moon. But Jung would say otherwise. What looks like polarity is actually reflection. The narcissist and the empath are mirrors locked in a dance, each one projecting their shadow onto the other, each one mistaking that projection for love. The narcissist cannot bear to face their weakness, their fear, or their shame. So they project those traits outward. They call others needy, broken, or fragile, never realizing these are the disowned parts of themselves. When they meet the empath, they find the perfect screen for this projection. The empath's softness, compassion, and vulnerability become the target. The narcissist labels it weakness, not because it truly is, but because it mirrors the vulnerability they buried long ago. To control the empath is to control the wound they refuse to face in themselves. But the empath also projects. They see in the narcissist everything they wish they could embody: confidence, strength, power, certainty. These are not traits the empath lacks. They are traits the empath has exiled, believing them to be dangerous. So they worship what they already possess. They bow to their own shadow, mistaking it for the other person. They say, "I need them to feel complete," not realizing that what they admire in the narcissist is a piece of their own lost self. As the projections intensify, the relationship transforms from harmony to chaos. The narcissist begins to resent the empath for reflecting their weakness. The empath begins to resent the narcissist for consuming their strength. Love turns to power struggle. Understanding turns to confusion. Each accuses the other of betrayal, not realizing that what they are fighting is themselves. This is the moment Jung called the confrontation of shadows, when the unconscious steps out of the dark and takes the stage. It is the most painful point in any relationship, but also the most potentially transformative. When the narcissist rages at the empath's sensitivity, they are raging at the child within them who was never allowed to feel. When the empath collapses under the narcissist's dominance, they are reliving the childhood helplessness they swore they would never feel again. Each sees their own rejected self in the other, and that recognition burns. This is why the relationship feels electric, obsessive, impossible to leave. It is not just love, it is possession. The unconscious has taken over, pulling both into the same psychic storm. Jung would say the shadow dance is not punishment. It is opportunity. If both partners can stay conscious long enough to see what's really happening, the mirror becomes medicine. The narcissist can finally see their vulnerability reflected in the empath and learn to face it with compassion. The empath can see their own power reflected in the narcissist and learn to claim it without guilt. Few relationships survive this dance, but those who face it consciously emerge changed, no longer half, but whole. The dance between the narcissist and the empath is not love. It is the shadow meeting itself. Until both claim what they've projected, love remains a battlefield. But once they do, the war ends, not through escape, but through awakening. On the surface, the bond between the narcissist and the empath looks unbreakable, magnetic, fated, larger than life. They swear it's love, destiny, soul connection. But Jung would say otherwise. It is not love that binds them. It is trauma. And every trauma bond demands a price. The first to pay is always the empath. In the beginning, they feel alive, seen, chosen, needed. The narcissist's attention feels like sunlight after years in the dark. But soon that warmth burns. The empathy that once felt like a gift becomes the very thing that drains them. They begin walking on eggshells, managing moods, shrinking themselves to keep the peace. They apologize for things they didn't do. They take responsibility for every emotional storm, and slowly they disappear. Jung would call this possession, when a complex takes control of the psyche. The empath becomes possessed by the caretaker archetype, unable to stop giving even as it kills them. While the empath collapses, the narcissist expands. Their mask feeds on attention, and the empath provides it endlessly. The more the empath gives, the more the narcissist consumes. But this inflation is fragile. Deep down, the narcissist still feels the same emptiness. Only now, it's buried under a mountain of control and praise. Every compliment is a drop of water on desert sand. No matter how much they take, they are never full. The more the empath gives, the less the narcissist feels. And the more the narcissist demands, the less of the empath remains. This dynamic locks both in a vicious loop. The empath believes, if I love them enough, they will heal. The narcissist believes, if they love me enough, I will feel whole. But both are wrong. The narcissist cannot receive love because they've replaced their heart with a mask. The empath cannot save them because they've abandoned their own boundaries. The more they try, the deeper the wound grows. Jung warned that the psyche will not tolerate lies for long. The more the empath denies their exhaustion, the more their shadow erupts, in breakdowns, resentment, or illness. The more the narcissist denies their emptiness, the more paranoid and cruel they become. What began as a love story becomes a slow psychic collapse, one losing themselves in silence, the other drowning in their own noise. Eventually, something breaks. The empath reaches a point of depletion where no amount of giving can sustain the illusion. The narcissist senses the shift, the supply fading, and lashes out or disappears. The bond ends not with closure, but with collapse. And yet, in this collapse lies the chance for awakening. Because beneath the pain is clarity, they were never whole together. They were two incomplete people holding mirrors to each other's wounds. The bond between the narcissist and the empath is a transaction of pain disguised as love. The narcissist pays with emptiness. The empath pays with themselves. Only when the illusion dies can the healing begin, when both realize they were never saving each other, only reenacting the past. On the surface, the end of a narcissist-empath relationship looks like ruin, betrayal, exhaustion, heartbreak. The empath collapses from giving too much. The narcissist spirals when the mirror disappears, but Jung would say otherwise. What looks like the end is actually initiation, the moment both are forced to meet the shadow they've spent their whole lives avoiding. Step 1. See the pattern. The first step is awareness. Both must face the truth. This was not love, but repetition. For the empath, I wasn't saving them. I was reenacting my childhood, trying to earn love again. For the narcissist, I wasn't being loved, I was being worshipped to avoid the pain of feeling unworthy. Once the pattern is named, the spell breaks. The relationship is no longer fate, it's feedback. Step 2. Face the shadow. Jung's greatest warning: what you refuse to face within will return through others. For the narcissist, the shadow is shame, the unbearable belief that without the mask, they are nothing. For the empath, the shadow is anger, the buried fury at always being the one who gives. Both must turn inward and meet these emotions directly, because until they do, they will keep finding each other in new faces, replaying the same story under different names. Step 3. Withdraw the projections. Each must take back what they projected onto the other. The narcissist must stop seeking admiration as a substitute for self-worth. The empath must stop seeking purpose in fixing others. Every trait the narcissist called weak is the vulnerability they need to heal. Every trait the empath called toxic is the power they need to reclaim. When projections are withdrawn, the mirror finally clears. Step 4. Integrate the opposites. Individuation, Jung's path to wholeness, begins when opposites are united. The narcissist must integrate the humility they've buried. The empath must integrate the strength they've denied. The narcissist learns that vulnerability is not humiliation, but humanity. The empath learns that saying no is not cruelty, but self-respect. Each begins to embody what they once sought in the other. Step 5. Rebuild from wholeness. Once integrated, relationships transform. The empath no longer loves from depletion, they love from fullness. The narcissist no longer seeks worship, they seek connection. What was once parasitic becomes mutual. What was once illusion becomes choice. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." The narcissist-empath bond was meant to burn away illusion, leaving only what is real. When both face their inner wound, the same wound of unworthiness expressed in opposite ways, they are freed. The narcissist no longer needs the mask. The empath no longer needs the chain. And if they ever meet again, it is not as savior and sinner, not as taker and giver, but as two souls who finally see themselves, and therefore each other, clearly. The only way to end the narcissist-empath cycle is not through escape, but through awareness. The wound must be faced, the shadow reclaimed, the opposites integrated. Then, and only then, does love stop being a battlefield and become a meeting of equals. So the next time you feel that irresistible pull, that fated connection that feels too perfect to be real, pause. Ask yourself, is this love, or is this my wound looking for itself again? Because the moment you see the pattern, you stop being a victim of it. And the moment you stop feeding the wound, you begin to heal it. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Factspire TV, not for comfort, not for blame, but for truths that expose the unconscious bonds that rule your life and teach you how to finally break them.